Good day, and welcome to our Power is Within podcast. I'm your host, Chasmith. My mission for this podcast is to inspire you to take your power back and to realize that you are the healer that you've been looking for all along. Today's episode is one of my favorites. I have learned so much through my chat with our guest today, and I have been personally having so much fun implementing what I've learned from him in my day-to-day life already. I am on a personal mission to correct my eyesight and vision, to strengthen my eyes, and to help my eyes become more resilient to bright lights and sunshine. And it's a journey. So, in honor of today's episode and everything fun we learn in a little bit here, our challenge will be one of the exercises that we are going to learn today, which is palming. And I can't think of a better way to have a little meditation or a little stillness or a little pause with life than incorporate some palming into it. So that way you get to double up on your relaxation while also giving your eyes a true rest. You will learn all the details of palming, how to do it, and the benefits of it in our chat today with our wonderful guest, Meir Schneider. So, since he does say that it is ideal to start with about 6 minutes of palming at a time, let's start there. Can you commit to yourself to do 6 minutes of palming per day for the next 7 days? And hopefully beyond. But let's not worry about beyond right now. Let's just start with 7 days, right? Baby steps. All right. So, as I've already mentioned, our guest today is Meir Schneider. He is the founder of a school for self healing located in San Francisco. His organization hosts many events throughout the year in person as well as virtually. These events include helping you to tap into your natural vision as well as other healing through the body. Meir will share his story during our chat today, how he went from being born blind to not only being able to see, but see well enough to get a driver's license without corrective lenses or glasses. It is truly amazing, and I just can't wait for you to hear his story and all the wisdom that he shares with us today in his teachings. If you are inspired to take back your power to heal your vision and begin to implement these exercises on your own, please reach out to me and let me know how it progresses. I am so excited for you, and I'm excited for me. I can't wait to see, no pun intended, where I am at with my vision in 1 year. And hopefully yours progresses as well. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and get into this amazing dialogue. All right, Meir, thank you so much for being here with me today to have an awesome discussion around, self-healing and possibility.
I cannot tell you how honored I am to be on your wonderful show.
Thank you. So I tend to let most of my guests start out by sharing a little bit of their own story, and I'm particularly excited to hear a little bit about yours and create this space for you to share it with my audience, just because it's a pretty amazing story from what I've gathered. And yeah, so I don't know if you'd be open to just starting out there and sharing a little bit about who you are and what you've overcome.
It's only amazing because of the state of medicine and the medical profession, in that they do not have rehabilitation for the eye. They only try to fix it one way or another. So if I start from the beginning, I was born in the Soviet Union, actually in Ukraine, in Lviv, Ukraine. And I was raised in Kiev. And I was born with cataracts. Unusual. My two kids were also born with cataracts. But I think I'm the one who started it in the family. And the reason is that there was a photography lab in our apartment. My father, and that's a funny thing, I was born to deaf parents, And my father, a deaf Jewish photographer, sold the Trinity pictures to different churches. And it was illegal to do it because the Stalinist regime liked to put basically a quota of how much churches can have it. And if churches took too many of them and bought more than they were given permission to, not only them would be in trouble, but the one who sell them would be in trouble. So he did a lab at home, and I think a lot of the chemicals have dispersed. And the result was I was a very weak infant. You'd never know it by my shape these days that I was ever weak, but I was a very weak infant on the brink of death, and I was born with cataracts, which is an opacity of the lens. And in my generation, they thought that the time to do the surgery for different reasons is the age of 4. However, my kids were born to a different time when they do the surgery at the age of 2 or 3 weeks, because they learn in a later date that in the first 8 weeks of life, the brain is not looking much. But after the age of 8 weeks, if you don't look, you permanently close your brain to see. And in fact, I'm struggling with one cataract patient in Germany whose parents got her to have the surgery at the age of 11 weeks, and that was already 2 or 3 weeks too late. So I was reading Braille. In fact, we went to Israel from the Ukraine and through Poland, and I was the quickest Braille reader in the whole state of Israel. And that was already in 6th grade. When I was a little bit before 17, I was introduced to eye exercises in the Bates method. And the youngster who introduced me to that, by the way, was a high school dropout, which I think was very smart at the same time, taught me eye exercises. Well, I'm doing them. And the result of that is that I started with people admonishing my parents for not giving me a seeing eye dog and a cane. And I had several accidents just crossing the street, not seeing the lights. And today I read, write, and drive for already 40 years. And that's a big deal. When I got at the age of 28, my driver's license, I felt that it was God-given. It was like getting a Nobel Peace Prize. Here, my lens is destroyed. 99% of my lens is scar tissue. And at the same time, no brain concept of seeing, which every infant who is not born with an obstruction of his vision develops. And it was very clear why I need Braille when I read it, but it's unclear to almost anyone who looks at my eye and asks the question, how can you see with what you have? How can you drive? Well, I'm doing it. And it's a result of eye exercises. And I've written several books about it. One of them is Awakening Your Power of Self-Healing. One of them is Movement for Self-Healing, where you can read how I developed my method. But one of them is Vision for Life. And I have 10 steps there and 10 principles. And I describe them very well, the principle of seeing. So if you want, I can tell you what they are.
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Well, principle number 1 is deep relaxation of the eyes. Because the feeling that I have is that most people in the modern world have great stress with the vision they're not aware of. Now, in my case, the stress was enormous because my brain wanted me to see at the age of 8 weeks, but my eyes would not be able to get the light to the brain because of the obstruction of the cataract, which is an opacity of the lens. So I developed secondary nystagmus, which is an involuntary movement of the eyes. And my eyes used to move at a speed of 300 movements per minute. And with the eye exercise of deep relaxation, and the one I like the most is called palming, where we rub the hands and put the hands gently around the eye orbits and visualize nothing like black, which, by the way, I could not visualize at first. It felt to me like my optic nerve was irritable, as if I see a bunch of stars. And then what happened is that I was able to see dark. And when I was able to see dark, when I was palming or putting my hands gently over my eye orbits, I was able to relax completely from the nystagmus, and it fell down from 300 movements per minute to 60.
Wow. Just from
So
palming.
just from palming.
Wow.
So relaxation of the eyes is the first principle. Adaptation to different light amplitude and frequencies. And since you're in Florida, probably many people will debate me on that one. But I'm against sunglasses. I have no problem with you putting slightly tinted sunglasses when you drive to a sunrise or to a sunset and the sun is right in your eyes. But I have a big problem with people wearing them all the time at all lights. People sometimes wear them indoors, which is a very big mistake. So not having sunglasses is important. Having a visor in strong light, like in Florida, is a good idea. A hat with a visor. People always went to shade. So what I would like to suggest is for people to not wear sunglasses and learn the exercise of sunning. Okay? The sunning exercise is where you close your eyes and you move your head from side to side. And you face the sun in spite of the closed eyes with the bridge of your nose or with the middle part of your forehead, you know, where the pituitary gland is,
Hmm.
or our third eye. And then you move your head 180 degrees to the left, 180 degrees to the right. I even advise people that when you move the head to the right, you move the left shoulder a little bit forwards and back. And when you move the head to the left, you move the right shoulder a little bit forwards and back, just so the movement will be more than 180 degrees. So there will be light and darkness. Even though the eyes are closed, when you face the sun, it's very strong light. And slowly but surely, the pupils become stronger. Fluids are drained from the eyes. A very good exercise against high pressure of glaucoma. And so that's the one thing I want people to do, to adapt to the strong sunlight. But at the same time, we don't have night. Even where you lived in Sonoma, which is a small area, there still is city lights. And even in the country, there are lights. And people walk in the country with flashlight. I think it is so important that we are completely blocking the light at night. And there's a big difference between looking at stars and having lamp in the corridor. It's a thing that was found that children that sleep with light in the corridor become a very high myopic, which means very nearsighted. And many problems can ensue from that. So I think it's very important to have complete darkness at night and great light in the daytime. And so that's a very, very important thing. See, when we talk about palming, an exercise where you rub your hands and you put your hands around the eye orbits very, very gently, the palms nourish the eyes. And the warmth of the palms and the energy of the palms, even though you don't touch the eyes, nourish them. And there's many nerve endings in the palms that really can affect the eyes. I often sit down, listen to a story. I probably would listen to this program as I sit down and palm. But at the same time, it's nourishing the eyes.
Mm.
The night has to be completely dark for everybody. So that's an important thing. Okay, so the third thing is looking at details, because the most important part of the retina is the macula. It's 1 out of 10 layers is the photoreceptors, and the center is the macula lutea, which is the yellow spot that really sees very well whatever you're looking at. So that's a very important thing to do. And then the next thing is uh, to to expand your peripheral view, to make sure that you see well periphery, because most of us, you see so many people walking, looking at the phone, forgetting there's any periphery around them. I'll never forget that once before I lectured in a library in West Portal, which is in San Francisco, the San Francisco Library. Once before I lectured in the library, I stood in a coffee shop, and there was a lady who stood in line, and I stood exactly half a foot from her, and she did not notice me. And when she ordered, I asked her, "Did you notice that I'm standing near you?" She said, "No." I said, "That's a good subject to my class. We do not sense at all the side." And I can tell you, I run often on the beach. A dog jumped at me from the side. I did not notice him, and I'm working a lot on side vision. If if you were in the jungle and you didn't pay attention to the periphery, you'd be dead.
Mm.
And these days, people forget they have periphery, and that's why they get glaucoma. So that's very important. And the next one is to look far at a distance. We look from near way too much. Houses used to be dwelling. Used to be shelters. Now they're dwelling. People used to be mainly outdoors and looked at the distance. These days, they're mainly indoors. So it's so important for us to learn to look at the distance. It helps the lens to be flat. The muscles of the lens relax, and that prevents cataracts. We have cataracts, and so many people have it because we don't look enough at the distance. And so the next principle is balanced use of the eyes, because normally many people don't have a balance. I just finished a session with a nice New Yorker that has imbalance in his eyes. With one eye, he drives, and the other eye, he reads. He looks with one at a distance and one from near. That is a no-no. It's the reason for many eye disease and eye pathologies. And I'm teaching him to start and get the eyes more together. And we have many good exercises with red and green glasses. When you see one thing with the red lens, one thing with the green lens, and you work with them together. But we have other exercises of, obstructing the eye that is always reading, and expanding its periphery with waving of the hand, but looking with the eye we were never reading and learning to read with it. I also learned that people remember much better with the reading eye and much less with the eye that is not reading. So it leads to a complete imbalance of the eyes. And then the principle is balance use within each eye, which I will explain in a later time in a bigger forum, so to speak. But that's a very important exercise because the eye is not always fully working. And then it's important to work on body-eye coordination. And then we talk about more blood flow to the visual system, because most blindness comes because of poor blood flow to the visual system. And the last but not least is to learn to always have soft looking eyes, to not tense the eyes to look around. That is those are the 10 principles. And of them, we build about 200 exercises. And each person needs a different regime and different ways of working in order to improve his or her vision.
Wow. Okay. 200 exercises that you can do with just your eyeballs.
Well, no, with your brain, with your visual system, exercise for your optic nerve, exercise for your retina. So it's not just the eyeball. The eye has one thing that it does, it transmits light. But uh, the visual system is the one that absorbs it. It blocks most of the light transmitted, and it basically works with what you with what you with what you think you need to see. I'll give you an example. We all see right side up, but actually, it's proven that we all see upside down. They gave pilots glasses with which they would see upside down, and in 2 days they saw right side up with them. And then when they took the glasses off, some got nervous breakdown because they saw upside down without those glasses. And it took them 3 or 4 days to get back into normal seeing. So, truth of the matter is, a lot of our vision is our concept of seeing. And working on the concept is a very deep kind of work, which I must say is a little bit too sophisticated for the world of optometry, the world of orthoptics, and the world of ophthalmology. We do things in a much deeper way.
Hmm. So fascinating. Okay, I want to backtrack because I want to ask a couple questions about a couple principles. So you talked number one about palming. How does this differ from just the time we spend sleeping? Like, is it not like a relaxed state for our eyes when we're asleep?
I like your question. And first of all, let me say that what I was talking about is the principle of deep relaxation of the eyes in all situations. For example, sometimes what relaxes your eyes is looking at a distance. Sometimes what relaxes your eyes is doing some nice, vigorous exercise and getting more blood to the head. So the thing is, we want to accomplish relaxation of the eyes. Now, palming. I just want to give the audience an exercise. For example, rub your hands and put your hands over your thighs. Now, once you put your hands over your thighs, I don't have to tell you, put your hands over your think about your thighs. The warmth of your hands make you feel and think about them. And I tell you, rub your hands and put your hands over your belly. And of course, I don't have to tell you, focus on your belly. The hands do it, right? So now if I
Right.
tell you, rub your hands, put it over the eye orbits, you no longer make your eyes look at things and work. They're being focused on by your hands. So it is really energy work on the eyes that basically get you to sense the eyes, put focus on the eyes, so then the eyes can be nurtured and relaxed. Now, there is nothing that is more important than sleep. I think it's very important. I mean, you can sleep a little bit less in the summer, a little bit more in the winter. You could have to sleep with the seasons. That does not uh, compute in Alaska, where sometimes you have a winter with 2 hours of light and a summer with uh, 2 hours of darkness. But in most places in the world, that's what you can do. Although I slept well last night, it was 8 hours, but basically I don't mind when people sleep 5 hours in the longer days of the summer and 8 to 9 hours in the shorter days of the winter. Sleep is not replaceable by anything, but palming isn't either. It is an exercise where you relax your elbows, you have to really relax your back, and you put the hands over the eye orbits and you visualize complete darkness. For example, yesterday, to relax myself, I sat down and listened to a nice short story. It was actually by Mark Twain, and I was relaxing while palming was such a pleasant thing. Sometimes I listen to textbooks while palming. The only problem, sometimes I have to take my hands off and write some notes. But other than that, yeah, other than that, it's just a wonderful thing. There is nothing like human hands. You know, that's why the art of body work, I hate to say the word massage, it has some all kinds of factors in it. But body work is like art that can somebody after I worked on his son said, "You're like a sculptor," because I straightened his back from being hunched into being straighter. And that is something that is a power that most of us are not aware existing with us. That our hands can do so much good to our body. From tap, I'd like to tap with my fingers on the chest to increase the size of my thymus gland, especially these days with all the immune problems. And I love to put my hands very gently around my eye orbits and visual darkness. I have two addictions. One is terrible and one is great. First addiction is I am a chocolaholic. It does make my waist look a bit big. That's not good. But the other one is a palmaholic. I could sit down and palm for hours at a time. The most I ever done it was 11 hours in one sitting. I don't advise it to others because you can live with a stiff back, and plus your eyes may not be able to take it. But it wasn't just happening on its own. It was not something I decided. I used to have a palming group coming to my studio at my home, and to qualify for it, you had to be legally blind. We sometimes had infiltrators that saw better than legal blindness, but that's normally was the group. And exactly in that day, we normally would sit 2 or 3 hours, palm, massage each other's shoulders, listen to some music, comedy, whatever, and guide each other through palming. But there was one day when nobody came except one wonderful lady who is also a Zen student. And she was a very strong meditator. And we both sat down. We did not know that 11 hours passed when we finished. And after that, I was able to go to the DMV and ask for my driver's license. And ever since then, I can drive.
Wow, that is crazy. Um, so it's, I mean, so palming definitely makes sense to me so much. I am curious though, do you, and I know you're saying sleep's important, which I also agree, but do our eyes actually really get to rest in the same way while we're sleeping?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, if you want to have a good sleep, you got to dream, because dreaming um, washes your previous day away, unless it's a nightmare, yeah? uh, Dreaming is important. When you dream, you have movement in your eyes. Also, there isn't as much protection. Even if you live like me, I have double blind, wonderful, and I even go to lie down with a T-shirt of tomorrow over my eyes, or clean T-shirt I only put over my eyes. And then as I toss and turn, it falls, and I have an impression of complete darkness. It's never as dark as when you palm. I love to sit in a dark room and palm, and it is so wonderful. Even not in a dark room, palming, it is so relaxing of the eyes, and it leads to exchange of fluids in the eyes. It nourishes the eyes, and I think it's one of the best things to prevent cataracts. Two things can prevent cataracts: looking at a distance for 20 minutes a day in intervals of 4 and 6 minutes, and putting the hands over the eye orbits and resting the eyes. Those things really can help cataract, basically.
How many minutes do you think is a good amount for somebody who's listening, who's just learning about this and wanting to get started with palming? What's a good goal for
Six
every
minutes.
day?
6 minutes should be minimum when you do it at a time. And throughout the day, do it for about half an hour, which is 5 times 6 minutes, or once for 10 minutes. The guy I spoke with right now, who studies with me, he said that he does it 10 minutes one time and 20 minutes another time. But I think that a good division through the day would be the best. I'll never forget one wonderful lady who worked and struggled with farsightedness. And one thing that I saw is that her eyes in the middle of the day became tired. And I said to her, what you need is to sit down and palm for 10 minutes, and they're not tired for the rest of the day. But people
Mm.
allow themselves and they push themselves through tremendous fatigue while palming their eyes. Sorry, tremendous fatigue, not palming their eyes. And if you palm in the middle of the day and you don't have tremendous fatigue, things change for you for the better.
Okay, and it's that simple. It sounds relaxing. I mean, like you said, you could listen to an audiobook, you can do a meditation, music, so many things to do while you're also resting your eyes.
Let's put it this way, for the whole body, sometimes you need in the middle of the day to lie down and rest for a few minutes. I know that when I teach a very long class, when we have our lunch break, I lie down for about 10 minutes. I sometimes sleep for 1 minute. And after lunch, I'm as just refreshed as I was when I started in the morning. Okay. So getting rid of fatigue is very important. And people are very unsensitive to the eyes. They don't really care what happens to the eyes. They tell the eyes what to do. And they read to the late hours of the night or early hours of the morning, which is a big mistake. And they don't give the eyes a break. I think it's so important to rest the eyes. I remember I talked to my partner yesterday and I said to her, right now it's 11 o'clock in your time. This is when you stop looking at the computer. She doesn't have that habit. She normally looks at it until 1 o'clock. Makes no sense to me, basically. So
Mm.
I think it's so important for us to notice when we get tired and to give the eyes the rest that they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. My eyes are agreeing with you.
Right.
Okay. Another question I had, thank you so much, was regarding the next principle, which was the adaptation to different light. And you were talking about not wearing sunglasses. And I'm curious what your take is on blue blockers now that so many people are so dependent on blue light and screen time.
Yeah, I have no problem with wearing blue blockers from time to time because this whole situation of looking at something artificial is um, is a hard situation for the eyes. But what is so much more important than blue blockers is that you look at the distance for 20 minutes every day and that you wave your hands to the side when you look at the distance. In our place, I encourage my employees to go and look at the ocean, look at the waves. And I definitely tell all my students to go and look at the ocean, look at the waves. We spend a lot of time on the beach. In fact, I say that even though Ocean Beach is a cold beach, unlike the beaches in Florida, I would say that what I'm telling my students is that uh, the largest room in our school, which is basically a house, so the largest room in our house is the beach. And we spend a long time working on the beach, both on our body and on our eyes. That's very important. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Now I know another reason why I love going there so much and staring off in a distance.
You don't stare, you look, you scan. You look at the sky, you scan the sky, you scan the
Ah.
horizons, you scan the waves, you scan, if you're not on the beach, the mountains, you scan the buildings. Then what you do is you cover your strong eye. Uh, it could be a patch, but better than a patch is glasses. In fact, that's what you should do with your uh, dark glasses. Remove the lens which is over the weaker eye and put uh, duct tape over the stronger eye, and then use just the frame for a good eye exercise. And from time to time, you look just with the weaker eye exactly the same way at the sky and the horizons, and you scan. You don't stare. Having soft eye is so important, and looking from detail to detail is so important. Otherwise, you freeze your vision, and that freezing is very, very bad for you. So,
Mm.
so it's important to scan the horizons and to look at a distance, and that's one thing. Now, returning to the light, um, You know, we did not have sunglasses 200 years ago.
Right.
People's vision was so much better than ours. But for some reason now, doctors tell us sunglasses will protect you. Let me tell you, you have sunglasses in your eyes. You have a whole melanin layer in your retina. The melanin pigment blackens the light, darkens it. There's also melanin layer in the blood vessels that get into the eyes, okay, called the choroid. That melanin is also connected to the skin. So if you
Mhm.
wear sunglasses, you hurt your skin
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned that.
because the production of melanin is being harmed.
Right.
And so uh, I'm not saying get crazy with it, you know. Of course, if there's incredible glare, wear the sunglasses for now. But the earlier you can win yourself out of it, and again, I suggest to look at our YouTube. I suggest to look at our website. We have wonderful classes with which you can work. And I suggest for people to take two upcoming classes. We have a training course. You can do it as a life growing mechanism for yourself. And with time, you learn how to work on others. And that starts on August 9th till August 26th, although you can take a part of it if you want. And then on September 3 to 5, we have a Labor Day weekend, which is a wonderful long weekend when you learn to work on your eyes and on your body. Here we're going to look at the waves. We're going to adapt to the strong sunlight. But what I want to say is that you can learn exercises to strengthen your pupils instead of remaining always with weak pupils because you are hiding indoors and you're wearing sunglasses. You will learn to strengthen your lens so it will never have cataracts and strengthen your eye if you already had cataracts. You will learn to prevent yourself from having glaucoma. All those things are so wonderful. So I think that learning to use yourself in the best possible way is number one, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you say for somebody who has developed such sensitive eyes that sunlight causes like headaches or migraines for them, like it's a trigger to their brain when they're in that direct light? How do they begin to retrain their brain to be able to tolerate that light without the sunglasses on?
Well, it's interesting that one of my better practitioners just had a client who became totally blind in one eye from a disease he had and could not tolerate any strong light. And she made a very big difference in his life in that she trained him to do sunning and palming and many other exercises. And right now, light doesn't bother him. And so, what you learn is to strengthen your pupils, expand the way that light falls on the periphery of your retina, and that way your light sensitivity evaporates. There is a reason for light sensitivity. Fight between the two eyes. When one eye tries to see better than the other one is that not all parts of the retina receive the light equally as needed. And that's one thing that we help people obtain with different exercise. For example, one of them is putting a strip of paper from the forehead to the chin and throwing ball from hand to hand above the head. It makes the two eyes work equally, and then they see equally and they see better. Another simple one is to wave the hands to the side vigorously as you look straight, and then the light starts to fall more evenly on your retina. So two things: stronger pupil, which we obtain with sunning and palming. Palming expands them, sunning constrict them. And even during sunning, you face the sun with eyes closed, so then the pupils constrict. You move all the way to the side, 180 degrees to the side until it's dark. And so it's dark light, dark light, dark light. That strengthens the pupils quite considerably. And I can tell you that I had big damage to my pupils due to the cataract surgeries, and they function well. My daughter had one small pupil and one large pupil because of the surgeries they did to her at the age of 2 weeks. Sorry, at the age of 2 weeks, and she was able to, in spite of that physical problem, to adjust to the light. Light doesn't bother her. She was lying with a paper that glows in the dark, like stars. She was sleeping with that. So it's not like lamp. It's just like far away stars, although it's paper with phosphorescent paint all over her room. And she was doing a lot of sunning. That made a huge difference for her.
Wow, that is so amazing. Our bodies really are amazing.
Adaptation to the sun is very important. And avoiding the sun is the worst thing. It's just like, you tell me, I don't like to walk. I like to sit more. How long will it take you until your legs can't walk? You know, you don't adapt to the light, then you are actually in a place where the eyes become weak permanently. And we want to strengthen them. We don't want to weaken them.
Right. How neat. And you and like you were saying with the whole the how like wearing sunglasses and not allowing that natural light in can also impact your skin. I've learned something about that before where it can actually make your skin burn more easily because your brain has the ability to naturally prime your skin to protect you from the harsh rays, but when it's not receiving the proper light signal, it isn't able to send the right messages to protect the skin in the same way. Am I getting that correct?
Absolutely. And let's say something else. They made an experiment because ophthalmologists, and you have to know that I'm talking 180 degrees opposite in what the profession thinks, right?
Right.
Ophthalmologists basically convinced two villages of Aborigines to wear sunglasses. And first time in Aborigine history, they got sunburn. So you definitely need to not wear them, with the exceptions I mentioned. And I think also, we're trying to not have sun exposure these days. We were warned of what's going to happen to us. And indeed, skin cancer can come because of sun exposure, no question. But to everyone who gets skin cancer for being in the sun, you have something like 5,000 people who get osteoporosis from not being there. If you don't want to have osteoporosis, you need the sun. The way that the body absorbs vitamin D from the sun is so much more powerful than from supplements or from milk. I think it's so important for the strength of our bones to be able at least to be in the sun, especially when it's morning or afternoon, and to absorb the sun. I ran this morning with my bathing suit in the sun. I loved it.
Hmm.
But then I sat down and palmed. That was very important for me. So it's not like you're in the sun, then you go to the dark and you rest from it. But it is so important that you are in the sun, and I'm doing it daily.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, you've already sold me, and so after I do my morning beach walk, I think I'm gonna try this palming thing also.
Wonderful.
I'll do the sunning and I'll do the soft eyes exploring out in the distance, and then I'll come home and palm.
Wonderful.
Now, it's kind of on a side note, but I did wonder these days, do you wear corrective lenses or seeing glasses, or you have good enough vision on just with your own eyes?
So I just want you to know about my history in that when they fit me with glasses, basically I was measured as having 1% without glasses and 4% with glasses. And now I have 70% vision without glasses. So what glasses would do for me is for a moment get me to see better the same line I'm seeing, just see it more clearly. So they
Hmm.
don't really make any difference for me. So I read, write, and drive without glasses.
Wow.
And the DMV was worried about it. So they tested me in the daytime and at night. The normal test is 22 minutes on the road. They did me freeway. So it was an hour on the road. And each time I passed the test until they gave up on me and gave me a permanent, unrestricted license.
That is so amazing. Wow. And you, as you talked about all these like exercises and the principles, you mentioned cataracts and some other like various common kind of eye diseases or eye diagnoses that can show up for people as we get older. But who would you say in general these exercises are for if somebody doesn't have, if they're like, oh, well, I don't feel like my eyes are straining right now, or they don't have any of these diagnoses? Like, is this still something that is for everybody?
Absolutely. It's for all of humanity. You know, Eskimos used to see amazingly good well until they started to go to school. If you pay attention to the difference between people in Singapore, which 94% of them are nearsighted, versus people in rural Tibet, where 3% of them are nearsighted, you could see the picture. Bedouins have amazingly good vision. They look at the desert, look at the distance. In fact, that's how the Israeli army uses them. They detect when there is movement in the Sinai desert, and they call the Israeli soldiers to do the fighting. But basically, there's no way for Jewish kids that are bound to phones and are bound to computers to have anything like the vision of the Bedouins, so to speak. Um, Bush people have amazing vision. We lost our vision. If you were born in the jungle and you are a native Indian in the Amazon, you're going to have amazing vision. Your vision is not going to be 20/20. It's going to be 3 or 4 times sharper than that. But if you're a kid in Florida, then from very young age, you're going to look at computers. And I really recommend not to get the kids to look from very young age at anything. Just at the age of 7, they should start. I didn't mean anything, any letters. They should start letters. Until then, it should be pictures and drawing and stories and whatever have you to educate them. And because they're hyperopic at a certain time, the eye is too short, then it can easily become too long if you look too much. So what happens is we normalize wearing glasses. Like, okay, I wear glasses and I see 20/20. What else do I need? Well, how would you feel if somebody would walk with crutches? Okay, would you think that that's normal? So if your legs are weak, I would like you to first of all go to a pool and exercise in your bathtub, get massages or body work and do some exercises rather than immediately have crutches. But for some reason, we accept glasses. You just go to the nurse, you don't see the bottom line, you see 90% of normal, and they immediately give you glasses. That's crazy, completely crazy. And those glasses actually make the eyes weaker. That's why I really recommend for people to go to our website and get my wonderful um, class online of overcoming astigmatism, nearsightedness, and farsightedness, and 2 introductory classes that go with it. I think it's going to make a huge difference um, in your vision if you would follow the class.
And so you do believe there's generally hope for, say, you have a client and they have been wearing glasses to see far for 10, 20 years. Is there generally hope for them to still recover their vision to not need those glasses for the rest of their life?
Absolutely. Look,
Wow.
people can be stiff unless they take some good stretch classes, right?
Hmm.
People can decide that things cannot change, and that decision makes things not change. They definitely can change. Today, I worked with a nice New Yorker, and he, in a pretty mature age, was able to improve his vision greatly, completely.
That is so amazing because it's so kind of opposite of what we're taught, like I love the analogy of how just accepting wearing glasses is like accepting everyone being on crutches or in a wheel, like I think wheelchair or something. It's like literally a crutch and we don't even think twice about it. It's
Yeah,
just become so common and widespread.
yeah. Once ophthalmology made the decision that we cannot improve our vision, it
Hmm.
became the decision of everyone.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. They're not gods, They don't know everything, and they claim to know everything, and they didn't. If you're really a scientist, don't just make a decision once and for all. One cannot improve his vision. What you should do is ask again, again. But if they could, how would they?
Hmm.
And they never ask that question. And the result is that we depend upon all kinds of quick fixes and bandage approach, rather than uh, a deep way of preventing eye problems. Think about it. If you look all the time from near and not enough from far, why should your lens not become stiff?
Hmm.
Because it becomes flat when you look at a distance and round when you look from near. And if it is stiff, and you just get glasses to read from a print from near when it becomes stiff, which happens to many people in their 40s, why shouldn't it have cataract 20 or 30 years later, where the proteins crowd? Just like if you sit all the time, give me one reason why you shouldn't develop arthritis of the hips. So the point is, you need really to get to a place where you are treating your eyes and treating yourself into better function.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. It makes me think of how a saying I've always said is that just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal. But a lot of times we get so used to seeing something and it becomes so common that we mistake it as normal.
Exactly, exactly. And I think there's nothing that destroys humanity more than routine.
Hmm.
Nothing destroys humanity more than routine, and the routine is what causes degeneration. And pay attention to what happens. People live longer these days. You're from a state where many people live 100 years, or more. They live longer these days, but pretty miserably. And what we have to learn is to allow ourselves to move in a greater way.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just so fascinating because it's like kind of like the example I work around a lot of and deal with and have a lot of guests on here that all talk self-healing of different components of the body. And a really common example that we always hear is when you get a cut, you never question whether or not your skin will heal that cut. But we often think that when something happens on the inside of us that it's not necessarily healable. And I definitely think that adding one more layer is we look at the eyes and we've become so accustomed to not thinking that just like our biceps can get stronger and our quad muscles can get stronger and our feet can get stronger, but our eyes and the muscles around the eyes can also get stronger.
And the brain is very flexible,
Hmm.
and new synapses can be formed. For example, new synapses with a weaker eye can
Hmm.
be formed. So much can happen, and all of this with beautiful exercises, simple to do, and they're done through relaxation.
Now, you say weaker eye. And earlier when you were going over the principles, you talked about balancing the eyes and how we might have one eye that we use for reading versus like driving. How does one begin to assess and figure out which eye they might be leveraging for something like reading more than the other? Because I know when I read, I just feel like or assume that they're both working.
Okay, it's very simple. I give you a page with small print,
Hmm.
and I have you close one eye and close the other, and you see which one sees it better.
Okay.
I put an eye chart in front of you. There are many 10-foot charts because most people don't have 20 feet in their home. Ophthalmologists normally put mirrors in their room so they can make it 20 feet, but you can have a 10-foot chart and then you can measure and see how well you see from distance. And I would say that averagely, I would say 90% of the people I meet in my classes have difference between the two eyes.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Like somebody with whom I worked the other day, the difference between her right eye and her left eye was so big that even when I put a small piece of paper to block what she sees with the right eye, she still read with the right eye. So I had to put two small pieces of paper on her nose to prevent her from seeing what she sees with the left eye and to give the left eye freedom to look. And then she
Mm.
waved her hand to the side of the right eye so the brain wouldn't put the right eye to sleep because we're training the brain to work with both eyes all the time. But we want the weaker eye to get stronger and to integrate with the stronger eye.
Right. I mean, so it's like compensation happens just the same as like our stronger, more dominant side of our body muscularly tends to compensate for the weaker side.
Exactly.
Do you find that the weaker link in regards to the eye is correlated to our handedness, our dominant hand?
Well, there's nothing wrong with having a dominant eye. The thing is, you also want to make sure the other eye is being well used.
Hmm.
So, in some ways, there is something to it because often people overuse their dominant eye, dominant arm. What I
Hmm.
teach many people to do is to use more and more of their muscles as much as possible. And as they move more and more of the muscles and use more and more of the muscles, their muscles become way stronger.
Right. Hmm. Does it generally correlate though? Like if I'm right-handed, is it usually my right eye that will be stronger as well?
Um, it could, but it could also be crisscross.
Okay, interesting.
Although in my case, it's very interesting. My left side is stronger, my right eye is stronger.
Okay. Yeah, opposites. Your practice in San Francisco, do you focus only on eye health or do you focus on self-healing in multifaceted way?
Oh, yeah, we are working on the fact that we need to move the body in different ways. We have 600 muscles in the body, and most of us use between 50 and 100 of them. And we forget about most of the movements we don't know. For example, today, when I was walking or running on the beach, I was walking backwards, I was walking sideways. Before I round the beach, often I walk on my knees. So it's so important to use parts you normally don't use. And that is so important sometimes to crawl and swim if you want to also walk. And when you swim, it's important to use the side, like to visualize that your hands are moving your arm and your feet are moving your legs. Well, I'm writing a new book, which I call right now Getting Back Your Back. And I have a feeling that people don't have their backs. They don't have the full movement they could have in their backs. And it's so important to activate the back in a new way. So in my practice, we do a lot of body work. If you want to call it massage, you can. We also do a lot of movement work. And I've worked with people with back problems that were not resolved in any other way, with repetitive strain problems that were never resolved in any other way, and prevented surgeries from needing to happen. And I oppose most of the surgeries there anyway because they have temporary effect and they weaken the area. So there's a lot that I'm doing. We work with people with disability, like with multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, but we also work with people with arthritis. So we do a lot of work which is similar to the eye work. I want to tell you something. I started to do my work when I was 17 in the beaches of Tel Aviv. I mean, people encouraged me to share with them what I know. And One thing that I've learned is that what physical therapists always did, they worked with, when we talk about paralysis, with the strong part of a person. So if somebody had poliomyelitis and they, which is basically having a virus destroying some of your motor nerves, normally it would not be even. So one leg would be weaker, or one arm would be weaker, or one side would be weaker. There are all kinds of variations, but that's what normally would happen. Physical therapy was trying to teach them to use the strong leg, the strong arm. And I did the other thing. I wanted to work with what is paralyzed. And so I worked on the paralyzed arm, on the paralyzed leg, and I helped them mobilize it to some extent. Sometimes my success was 2 or 3%, not very functional. But then sometimes it came to 65%. It changed people's life completely. And the thing is that they function much better. 10 years later, the post-polio epidemic came into existence. And the reason why it came into existence is that people overused their strong limbs. At first, they did not know that they overused them, but they overused them. And the result is they suffered from terrible fatigue in those limbs. And they got a recurrence of the polio symptoms, plus symptoms of strokes, heart disease, and many others. For that reason, what I would like to say is that we teach balance, how to use what's weak in you. So, for example, we teach in my training courses, we start by walking and running backwards, walking sideways, using muscles we normally don't use, lying on the stomach and moving the leg in rotating motion, which sounds very easy, but when you do your legs in rotating motion, they actually become longer because we always use the front muscles and we forget about the back muscles of the legs. So learning to use what we never use is my biggest direction. And the result is I've helped so many people to get out of the wheelchair, prevent wheelchair, and function way better. So we work on the eyes and on the body.
I love it. That's awesome. I was just walking backwards today.
Wonderful. And we need
Yeah.
practitioners in our work. So anyone who hears this and wants to study with us, we have a course on August 9th, started August 9th. And we need anyone who is of good intelligence and is committed to humanity to come and study with us.
August 9th. And people can find out more information about that on your website?
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, okay, so the website's going to be a great place for resources, information, upcoming classes, ways to work with you, correct?
Right. And it's www.self-healing.org. And if you want to correspond, you can respond with office manager at self-healing.org.
Okay. And is there any other ways that you would say that people can connect with
Yeah,
you
call
or the
us. Call us
principals?
at 415-665-9574. And by the way, I'm going to have a lecture on July 1st in Totati, not far from
Oh,
where you were, in a songbird healing center.
that's so cool. I lived there. I lived in Katati.
Yeah, nice place, isn't it?
Yeah, huh?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be very nice for people to come for a couple hours lecture. But again, my training course is my biggest concentration. A person can commit themselves for a portion of the training course, either for segment A, we have 2 segments, or even for the first half of segment A, and benefit from them. And then if they want to study further, they can pay the rest and enroll for the rest of the class. It'd be great. And also we have a Labor Day weekend. If you want to find a good way to do your Labor Day, come to San Francisco and help us help our existence, but also we are exercising a lot indoors, but even more so outdoors at the beach. And so we'll have fun on Labor Day here. So there's a lot that we can do.
So awesome. I look so forward to sharing this with my audience and listeners because I think it's packed with so much wonderful and inspiring information. And I really just want to say thanks for taking time from your busy schedule to, yeah, just share a little bit of your wisdom with us and, yeah, create some inspiration for people out there who might be tuned in.
So, Chaz, I can't wait for you to become national and for your podcast to reach millions. Thank you very much.
Thank, thank you. How awesome is our body, you guys? Our brain, our eyes, and our whole body. We're just so adaptable, and miracles truly are available to us every day. After hearing this story, I wonder what isn't possible. um, Remember to practice your palming exercises for 6 minutes a day. And if you feel compelled to begin implementing other exercises, let me know how it progresses. And if you've had any ongoing issues with your eyes or vision, I highly suggest looking into Meir's upcoming virtual course that he is offering soon that he shared with us today. Links will be in the show notes. And remember, as always, make this week great. Cheers.